Today, I want to talk about something that affects every single American. Is our food system, the vast network that grows, produces, and sells what we eat, actually harming our health? We're going to dive deep into the research, looking at everything from historical industry influence and specific ingredients to regulations and marketing tactics. Let's start with the demonization of saturated fats. In the 1960s, the sugar industry played a significant role in shaping dietary advice. The Sugar Research Foundation, now the Sugar Association, funded Harvard researchers to the tune of about $50,000 in today's money to publish a review in 1967. According to reports from NPR and research published in JAMA International Medicine, this review downplayed sugar's link to heart disease and shifted the blame onto saturated fats. Crucially, the industry funding wasn't disclosed, a practice not required back then. This likely influenced decades of dietary guidelines, potentially steering focus away from the harms of excessive sugar. Now, let's talk about something eye-catching: food dyes. Synthetic dyes derived from petroleum make food look appealing, but it raises health concerns. The Environmental Working Group, or EWG for short, flags several dyes. Blue dye number 1 has been linked to developmental delays and behavioral difficulties in animals, as well as developmental effects on the nervous system. Blue dye number 2 is associated with an increased incidence of tumors in rats. Green dye number 3 has been found to lead to a significant increase in bladder tumors. Red dye number 3 has been shown to cause cancer in rats. And despite an FDA pledge back in 1990 to ban it, as of 2025, it's still found in over 3,300 US food products. Red dye number 40, yellow dye number 5, and yellow dye number 6 make up about 90% of the dyes used in the US. Studies cited in PubMed and highlighted in the EWG link them to behavioral issues like hyperactivity in children. Even 1 milligram of yellow 5 reportedly causes irritability and sleep issues in sensitive kids. Plus, they can contain contaminants like benzodiazepine, a known carcinogen. And here's a key difference: the EU requires warning labels on food with these dyes, stating they may have an adverse effect on activity and attention in children. The US FDA does not, relying on what critics call outdated intake levels. This regulatory gap is why you see legislative efforts in states like Illinois, New York, and Pennsylvania trying to address these dyes. Another ubiquitous ingredient, high fructose corn syrup, or HFCS, are everywhere in processed foods. Research published in PubMed suggests that HFCs might mess with our brains and bodies. It appears to reduce dopamine release, which could potentially make it addictive, driving compulsive eating. Mouse studies showed that even without causing weight gain, high fructose corn syrup disrupted glucose regulation, leading to higher peak glucose levels and slower clearance. This means it could leave you feeling hungry and craving more, contributing to the cycles that fuel obesity and type 2 diabetes. Studies even show higher diabetes rates in nations that use more HFCs. And what's crazier to me is it's in foods you wouldn't even have imagined it in. There are many fruit juices you may think you can drink and be healthy, but they use high fructose corn syrup. Other items you wouldn't expect them in include Heinz ketchup, Wonder Bread, Ritz original crackers, honey bunches of oats, Oscar Mayer smoked lean white turkey, and Smucker's fruit preservatives. These all use HFCs, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. The regulatory differences don't stop at dyes. Let's compare the US and the UK. Additives banned in the UK are often allowed in the US. Butylated hydroxyanisole, or BHA, used in things like instant mashed potatoes, the EWG considers these potential carcinogens, and they are banned in the UK and Japan. Potassium bromate, found in dozens of US bread products, are linked to tumors and cause cancer in animal studies, and they are banned in the UK, Brazil, and Canada. According to reporting in the New York Times and analysis by the EWG, these discrepancies often come down to the US relying on a generally recognized as safe, or GRAS, designation, sometimes based on industry-funded studies versus Europe's more cautious precautionary principle. Companies often reformulate products for Europe while selling different versions here. What about fats? Seed oils like soybean, canola, and corn oil are incredibly common in American processed foods, partly because they're cheap and subsidized. Research suggests that their high omega-6 fatty acid content could contribute to inflammation, potentially linked to heart disease and diabetes, especially when consumed in the high amounts found in ultra-processed foods, or when repeatedly heated like in restaurant deep fryers. Let's shift to the farm. Pesticide residues on produce are another concern. The EWG's 2024 Dirty Dozen list, including items like strawberries, spinach, kale, apples, and peppers, highlights produce with the highest detected residues. Their analysis found that 90% of samples tested positive for 2 or more pesticides, with hundreds of different pesticides detected across the list. Fungicides used after harvest, like fludoxonil, are also gaining attention. A 2018 study in PubMed noted reports suggesting it could disrupt endocrine, liver, and neurological systems, posing potential health threats, though mechanisms need more study. While the WHO notes some reproductive effects, but states authorized pesticides aren't genotoxic, the EWG pushes for reduced exposure, questioning if current EPA limits adequately account for mixture effects or endocrine disruption. Perhaps one of the biggest shifts has been towards ultra-processed foods, or UPFs. These are industrially manufactured foods with additives, and they now make up over half of the calories Americans consume. A study from NYU School of Global Public Health found that UPFs accounted for 2/3 of calories for US youths by 2018, with increases across demographics. The consequences? A massive 2024 BMJ umbrella review covering nearly 10 million people linked higher UPF consumptions to 32 adverse health outcomes. This includes higher risk of heart disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes, poor mental health, and elderly death. Why? They're typically high in sugar, unhealthy fats, and sodium, while being low in fiber and containing various additives. As Harvard Public Health starkly put it, chronic illnesses from processed foods kill roughly 1,600 Americans every single day. And these issues spill over into your ability to survive other diseases. For instance, 2/3 of severe COVID cases resulting in hospitalization are attributed to 4 dietary caused diseases: obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and heart failure. These hospitalizations could have been prevented if not for these diseases. In fact, from 2011 to 2020, the economic cost of nutrition-related diseases has been estimated at $16 trillion. And how do we end up eating so much of this stuff? Aggressive marketing, especially to children, plays a huge role. The World Health Organization has called for stronger policies to protect kids from the marketing of foods high in unhealthy fats, sugars, and salt. Research cited by the American Psychological Association shows food ads dominate children's TV programming, making up 50% of ad time on children's TV shows, mostly pushing unhealthy options. Stunningly, children who watch more than 3 hours of television a day are 50% more likely to be obese than children who watch fewer than 2 hours. Digital marketing is even more pervasive, using data to target kids specifically. Studies show cartoon characters on packaging influence taste perception in collectible toys, boost preference for unhealthy meals. The Obesity Action Coalition points out that the food industry spent a total of $15 billion in 2014 on all food marketing in the United States. They wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't profitable. So, what does this all mean? The evidence we've reviewed today suggests that various aspects of the American food industrial complex, from historical influence and specific additives like dyes and HFCS, to regulatory gaps, pesticide use, the dominance of ultra-processed foods, and targeted marketing, may indeed pose significant risks to public health. The system often appears to prioritize profit, shelf life, and appeal over nutritional value and long-term well-being. This contributes to staggering health crises and economic costs, like the estimated 678,000 annual deaths linked to poor diet. So what can we do? While systemic change is needed, knowledge is power. I do have two fairly radical suggestions that you may not hear everywhere. First off, use GLP-1s if necessary. These are products like Ozempic, which have become very popular in the last few years. And let's be honest, if you've made it this far without clicking off and saying, I already know this, this might be something you need if you can't take corrective actions through your own willpower alone. I would not suggest staying on any drug for extended periods, especially as there have been concerns with GLP-1s of pancreatitis, pancreatic cancer, thyroid cancer, and acute kidney injury. However, I still view this as the lesser of two evils. The second thing I would suggest is to seek therapy to treat underlying causes. This goes hand in hand with the previous point. If you have gone on a spiral where you are unable to control yourself, there's probably a trigger for this, and you've been using food as a comfort. I do think that this is only helpful if you have a mindset of actually wanting to resolve the issue, but I do think it can have a positive impact. And now back to simpler answers everyone can utilize. Choose whole, unprocessed foods whenever possible. Read labels carefully. Look out for dyes, high fructose corn syrup, and any other of the long list of additives. Consider organic for produce items frequently high in pesticides, if accessible to you. Advocate for change. Support efforts for stricter regulations, better labeling transparency, and stronger controls on marketing to children. This is a complex issue with ongoing research and debate, but understanding these potential impacts is crucial for making informed choices for ourselves and our families. What are your thoughts on the American food system? What changes have you made, or what changes would you like to see? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more content like this, and share it to help spread awareness. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.